No, if you do not have a ballot. We don't. We need ballots up here, Ed. Anyone else besides up here not get a ballot? Perfect. Can I have a ballot? Where do we give these things? Where do we give these?
Tell her we'll collect them.
Did you? Well, if you die.
You bring them in?
Hey guys, here. You already.
Does anybody have?
Has everybody turned in their ballot? Kelly? Everybody turned in their ballot? One more, Ed. Okay. By a vote of 17 for Kathy Ponce, 43 for Leslie Thomas. There being a majority in favor of Leslie Thomas is elected to the SD 22nd Committeewoman spot. Please take your seat, Leslie. Next, we elect a new committee man for SD 19 to fill the vacancy. Are there any nominations from the floor? Robert Casillas has been nominated. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Any other nominations? Any other nominations from the floor for SD 19? Going. That was close. Art Brown. We're good. Any other nominations for SD 19, committee man? Going, gone. Robert Casillas and Art Brown have been nominated for SD 19 committee man. Will you please, will both gentlemen please come up so we can draw for speaking order? Well, sir, let's draw. Got it. Order, please. I recognize Art Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all of you guys for being here and allowing me to be part of the process. I'm Art Brown, a family man, husband of 43 years, father, grandfather, got 3 wonderful grandchildren, got 3 children, and a couple of years ago, I was frustrated with the way that we seen elections go, and I was assured that Texas did not have a problem when we saw them in Arizona, in Georgia, and some of the other states, but it motivated me to become a precinct chair. I also signed up with Convention of States as a district captain, and both of those have made me a better precinct chair. We understand the issues with election integrity in Bexar County, which is where I live in South San Antonio in SD 19. So I'm part of a group with Bexar conservatives trying to teach newer precinct chairs responsibilities, along with Convention of States doing the same thing. I'm also associated with Patriot Academy as a coach, a Congress coach. Spent a week at the Capitol with that in Austin, running through the scenarios the same that our legislators do. We learn how to process the bills and fight for them and get on the floor and see the process. And that was so enlightening. And I encourage anybody that you've got any kids like 16 to 26 years old, we're there working next to veterans and Congress coaches as myself. And it was real enlightening to be in the Capitol and to have that experience, see what our legislators are going through. So I thank you. And there's more, but I don't know, how much time do I have? Okay. The main thing I want to be considered is making a difference. We've we seem to get in this policy of making resolutions and giving ideas, but when we live in a country that our laws are being ignored, that are already passed, I think it's time that we try to implement engagement, and it starts with we the people, moving our people in our local area to get more involved. It's disheartening to see 1 or 2% turnout in your election area. So I vow to do a better job of trying to do that. So thank you for your time. Please give me your support. God bless.
Recognize Robert Casillas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I'm Colonel Robert A. Casillas, United States Army, retired. I spent 37 years, 7 months, and 15 days in the military. I served on the SREC from 2018 to 2020 when James Dickey was chairman, so I'm familiar with the process. I lobbied in Washington for 20 years on military issues, so I'm familiar with Washington. I got to serve around the world recently. I retired in '09, but I was a chief of exercises and training at Army South, and I had responsibilities in all 32 countries in Central and South America and the Eastern Caribbean. So I traveled extensively throughout that region. I'm familiar with those kinds of issues. I'm familiar with military issues, and I believe we're in a dangerous times now. The Democrats like to say the Russians, the greatest threat are the Chinese communists. It's very dangerous times. Again, I have the experience, management experience, military experience to do the job. I got to serve in the NATO headquarters in Bosnia in 2000. I served in the UN headquarters in Haiti in 2005. And again, at high levels, I work with U.S. ambassadors in Haiti and Trinidad and Tobago. I work with military leaders, defense leaders, example in El Salvador, San Salvador, El Salvador. I made a speech in Spanish, which I had to practice a lot, but to the deputy defense minister. So I'm used to operating at high levels. Senate District 19 is 68% Hispanics. I qualify. I recently learned something new. I'm a big supporter of Benjamin Netanyahu and the IDF. And through DNA testing, I'm 2% Jewish. I didn't know that, but I'm Spanish Jewish. My family came from Almendralejo, Spain, southwest corner of Spain, near the Portuguese border. We've been in Bexar County for 266 years. I raise Brangus cattle. I'm ready to hit the ground running. I ask for your vote. Thank you. God bless.
Since both candidates have spoken, will the tellers please hand out the ballots? Please mark Robert Casillas or Art Brown on the ballot and then return it to the teller.
While ballots are being passed out, quick announcement here. I love y'all, but when we started speeches, everybody checked their phones and the live stream dropped because the Wi-Fi is not good enough. So if you don't need the Wi-Fi, please don't use it so that we can make sure that the live stream stays up and everyone on YouTube can stay informed. Thank you.
Anybody missing a paper for a vote?
It's just too much trouble to file tax. We need. Did everyone turn in your ballots? Anyone not turn in their ballot? Thank you. Hey, James. Just have Jen send me something. See us.
And 17.
Okay. Order. Please take your seats. The vote count is 43 for Robert Casillas, 17 for Art Brown. Robert Casillas is elected SD 19 committee man. Please take your seat. We will start our meeting with the reports of our officers. I call upon Fred Tate to provide the report of the treasurer.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here. A little later than normal, so maybe people are more awake than normal. So, a couple reminders, especially for people that are new to the SREC. When I do reports, I report month-end numbers. Unfortunately, today is December 2nd, which means the books for November are not closed. So, the numbers through today primarily are through October 31st. I do have an estimate on the cash balance through 11/30, but it is just an estimate. And we'll get to that. So moving on our first slide, just remind everybody what our filing schedule is. If you could flip to the next slide, please, with the green. We're up to date and on time with all of our filings. For those that are new, the federal account is reported monthly on the 20th of the month. We'll have a report due just before Christmas again. We did not have any expenses for the constitutional election, so we didn't file any election reports. And so we are going to have one report due in December, and then we will have reports due in January. If you could flip. Okay. So I find this interesting to look at. This is the Texas Democrat Party federal PAC compared to the Republican Party of Texas. They spend a lot of money. They have a little bit of debt. We don't. We're carrying $737,000 in the bank in our federal account at the end of November. Excuse me, at the end of October. And if you flip to the state reports, similar situation. This is a bit of a weird comparative. The Democrats did spend money in the November constitutional election, so they did have a report there in their state account. But other than that, these are similar to what I reported in the last meeting because the last filing was filed in July. Flip to the next slide. So from a fundraising perspective, this continues the same trend that we've had throughout the year where the party is overperforming expectations on major donors. So we're going to have a different slide about major donors. I'll talk a little bit about that. So from a typical perspective, this is the variance. Direct mail continues to be a bit of a struggle. I know it's something the chair has talked quite a bit about. If you could flip to the next slide. And then the flip side from good Republicans, Jen is continuing the same trend that John had where we're doing a good job of spending less money, looking for opportunities to save at all times. So our budget variance is a little bit better on a net basis. And you flip to the next slide. This is kind of the makeup of how our contributions are distributed, visually speaking, major donors. And then if you can flip to the next slide, I know there's been some questions about major donors. Here's a list of all the major donors of the party since July of 2021. Major donors defined as donors that have given $10,000 or more to the party. A lot of these funds get spread around into multiple accounts. A lot of these funds are for specific programs. The Kathleen Wall contribution primarily would have been for election integrity that has been spent. We've discussed all of that. So this is a list. There's 57 major donors that have contributed to the party since July of 2021, and that's the list. So there you go. And so discussing reporting updates, one of the things that I'm trying to do, we talk a lot about the operational funds of the party and how that's the most important because it's the money that pays salaries and stuff like that. But that doesn't necessarily tell the full picture. What I'm trying to do with these reports is tell the full picture of the party. So if you could scroll to the next slide, please. This kind of shows you the total P&L for the party. Some of the things that I want to talk about throughout the year. We're trending to where we're accumulating cash more recently in this year, whereas the beginning of the year, right, the first 5 months of the year, we burned cash. And so you get into June, we started generating positive cash balances throughout the party, which is important because our cash balances have gone up. If you flip to the next slide, please. This gives you a feel for many of the various, let's say, programs, projects, things that the party does. This is how we deal with departments. It shows you all the various things that we've got going on with the party. You know, this covers everything, whether it's election integrity, or Victory. The Victory federal money, that's where a lot of the Ted Cruz money is going, and the party's starting to accumulate a lot of cash for that. So if you flip to the next slide. So this is the rolling slide of all the cash balances I've reported on the party since I've become treasurer. So we're ending October with $1.1 million, almost $1.2 million in cash in all the party bank accounts. It's an increase of $147,000 since the last report. A couple things to note. We're carrying a balance of $200,000 for Protect the House and $442,000 in Victory for the Ted Cruz project. So that, if you take that out, operationally speaking, the party has about $548,000 of operational cash, which is a $55,000 increase on a like-for-like basis from our last report. So, on an estimated basis, for November 30th, the party has $1,072,000. There appears to be a cash burn, but that's not a guarantee. The party is still caging. If we open an envelope that has a check dated in November, it's going to be recorded as a November contribution, FEC. So that $1,072,000 number likely is to slightly increase at the next report. It's an estimated number, just so everybody knows. So this is the cash report. Somebody asked me about this. This kind of tells you the balance by fund. And so there's going to be some interesting things in this. There's going to be some items that are negative. So for example, we've spent money on convention already. We haven't received any contributions yet for convention, right? We're going to be fronting expenses for a period of time. Then we're going to get a huge cash infusion, and then we're going to spend a bunch of money, and we're going to hope we make money at the end of this. So it does ride a bit of a roller coaster. So that's the cash balance. That it shows you the cash by fund or activity or program. Those are the types of words that we can describe. Again, the good news is it shows you at the end of last year, right, the party ended with $585,000, and this year through October we're up to 1.190, right, just almost $1.2 million in cash available. So that's a significant increase, and the good news is it's for things that the party should be doing, which is working on elections, right? So any questions?
The list of major donors from July 2021 is through what?
A date last week.
As of last, up to last week.
Yeah, it was pulled, and it is very difficult to match this up in campaign finance reports because remember, the first $10,000 goes in the federal account, and then it'll trickle down to the state. The reporting schedules are a little bit different. And so that is a consolidated ledger report. It can be representative of multiple individual, it is literally just, this is the revenue by client for that period of time.
Right. And I think you mentioned the big gift from Kathleen Wall was for election integrity in the 2022 cycle, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And several of the other gifts, big gifts I saw, I think many of those would have been earmarked for the Harris County litigation this year, correct?
Some of it, yes. Hexagon Park. If you could flip back to that slide. A couple things. So for example, like you just rolled past it. Sorry, James. I'm too fast. You're too fast. There you go. Which one was that? Mac.
James Mac,
Yeah. Hexagon Partners was for the Ken Paxton mailer.
It was election integrity. That money was taken out of election integrity.
MAC money, election integrity. I was going to point out we talked about Hexagon Partners at the last meeting. That was for the Ken Paxton mailer.
Okay. And that, of course, that list also includes convention sponsors from the 22 convention, correct?
Yes, this would be any contribution over $10,000 on a cumulative basis. That's how we've defined major contributors to the party.
Okay. And, we can probably, I guess we'll see this in the report in January, but can you tell us, just off the top of your head, since we have had this huge increase in major donors that show up, this month and the last few months, where is that coming from? Not including the major donors that gave to election integrity.
Well, the most recent one is the Hexagon Partners, which we discussed, right, as the Ken Paxton mailer.
Okay.
Amanda Amanda Schumacher in the last quarter.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Adolfo Tejas, SD 29. I would just request that funds that come in that are restricted in your reports be clearly identified as restricted. I understand you call it certain funds, but some of those funds can be transferred to unrestricted funds. Some of them can't be transferred to unrestricted funds. I think it would be beneficial when we look at this that restricted funds be clearly identified.
That's the purpose of the cash report. If you could flip, it's about the fourth to the last page. So normally, so up one more, the cash availability report, right? A lot of this stuff does define what's restricted, right? You're going to see things on here like the convention account, right? That stuff would be restricted for purposes of the convention, if you could scroll down. It's going to include things, the Victory Federal, right? Election integrity has had its own fund. If you could scroll down, CRC is a restricted fund for a specific purpose, if you could scroll down. And then you can see other aspects, keep going. It is a little bit difficult. We have a limited amount of, we have way too many programs to make some of this stuff fit on one slide. So one of the other things that I've tried to do, if you could scroll up a little bit further, keep going. Keep going, one more. There you go. This is kind of, from a department perspective, this is all the programs that the party runs, right? One of the best ways to understand everything that goes on here, right? Because on this slide right here, we talk about things that include, not the victory, in addition to the victory stuff, right? But it talks about the JFCs, which is the Protect the House program, right? It used to be McCarthy. That is restricted money. The problem with some of this restricted money is it does get traded around within the party because we have arbitrary rules that require us to spend a certain amount of federal money and even things. So for example, when we come up to the election in next November, we're going to run a mail program for a lot of the county parties. County parties are going to say, I want to send a get out the vote mailer that includes every candidate in my county, which includes some federal congressman. But they're going to send us state money. Well, guess what? We have to spend federal money or a portion of federal money. And so some of this stuff is going to get mixed together to use it, right? One of the things that we're under right now within this cycle is there is a federal requirement that we have to spend 36% of all of our administrative dollars out of the federal account. That is a typically high percentage. And the reason the percentage is so high is because we have a senator and a president on the ballot. Sometimes that percentage can be as low as 20% if we have nothing going on from a federal perspective. And again, the issue is we have a $10,000 contribution limit in the federal account. That's why it's easier to raise state money.
Okay, and I understand restricted and unrestricted, but I also understand like when you get election money, part of that comes in, part of it's restricted for certain purposes, part of it is available to be transferred to our general operating account. I think when I read this, I don't know what's exclusively restricted or what's partially restricted, and that's when we start talking about cash, I'm going through my mind, what do we really have from an operating perspective for the party itself?
But that's why I tried to give you that number of being about $500,000 if you could scroll down.
Can you put RES next to all those?
So if you could scroll down to the number, scroll up just slightly, just the very, my notes about the cash balances. Keep going. The one you skipped over, there you go. At the very, keep going, the bottom of that slide. That's why I'm trying to say we have $548,000 of unrestricted cash. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And that's the same number I reported in the last. I started to try to include that number because we are getting into a phase where we're having more restricted money available.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we're clear on it.
Fred? Just a question for clarification. On the next slide down, I think it's Victory Federal. Just so I understand, no, it's, I guess it's the slide up. One more. So where it says Victory Federal, Need a little explanation on that.
Sure, hang on just a second. Reimbursements, federal transfers from other like committees, it comes through as an expense, but it's kind of like it's not technically a contribution.
Okay.
And so that's why it's a
these are other
transfer
funds
down.
contributing-
Yeah.
other
We
funds
classify it as an expense, and so it's, in terms of traditional business P&L, it's positive EBIT, right? A credit to a P&L is always a good thing, whether it's revenue or a credit to expense. That's a good thing. That means you make more money.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hi, thank you, Tony Andy Shield, National Committee Woman. Great report. I really appreciate it. I was just wondering, is it possible if we could receive this report?
It is posted in the packet. It's supposed to be.
Oh, well, see, I didn't get the packet, so I
Okay,
didn't
so
see
it's
it.
in the digital packet. Where's Jen?
Oh, is it?
Is it in the digital packet?
Okay.
It's
Awesome.
my reports are always supposed to be in the digital packet. And so
Great.
the other point I wanted to make about my report, I want to remind everybody that around the 10th of the month, there is a Google sheet that every SREC member has access to that they can see the report. One of the things that's in the report is what is our cash balance. We publish the balance sheet, right? Things that I forgot to say at the beginning of this, right? I genuinely try to ignore the primary money because we don't have direct election expenses. We're not contracting with vendors. Most of our primary money gets sheeted to the state of Texas, right? Except for the reimbursements of the wages and the overhead and stuff like that, and it's not worth. I'd rather take that as a positive gain in the future in our reporting, and I default, and so all the cash balance reports that you guys see ignores the primary fund altogether. Even though the balance sheet is going to show that, our primary fund is obviously increasing. It's up to almost $1 million because of the ballot fees. There's going to be a big push in the next 9 days.
Again, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't realize that, and I really do appreciate it. I was just also wondering on the money that we received from Senator Cruz, that right now there's $400,000 in that account. That's all for federal money. Yeah,
That is 100% federal money.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yes, sir, Mr. Berg.
Fred, thank you for the hard work. I know that there's challenges in timing recognition and mixing a lot of accounts and that sort of thing, so good job.
Well, thank you.
Would you be able to just kind of impart to all of us so we can go back home into our constituents and give a very good, positive, uplifting explanation about the convention and the fact that we will, in fact, be able to, as we project, be able to pull that off and finance it and that sort of thing. Privately, I had a very good reconciliation with our chair maybe 2 months or so ago, and I'm happy with that. But would you mind to just kind of just weave all these things together just so that we can leave and be able to dispel some negativity that we've been hearing out there about the convention?
Okay. All right. So remember, I'm the finance guy. I'm the no guy. I'm not necessary. I try not to be a cheerleader. I can observe, having been involved in the SREC for a long time, that at this phase of the cycle, there's always concern over paying for convention, right? And we are certainly at a date in the schedule where it's not expected to have a lot of money in the account. But I can assure you that it is a legal and official mandate for us to have a convention. The convention is going to happen. To that extent, I think it's going to be okay. I'll let the chair speak to the revenue side of it.
I'll let Galen address it when she's doing her report. However, so the way we do it, we basically have like 3 lump sum payments to pay Pixel. Those are the big things that you got to worry about up front. The first payment's like $200,000 due in January. We've already, I don't think we've finalized the agreement yet, but we've agreed in principle, call it an LOI with Patriot Mobile already at an increase of their sponsorship from last time, significant increase in their sponsorship. Also, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick agreed to a sponsorship with a significant increase, as well as Controller Glenn Hager as well agreed to sponsor with a considerable increase. from last convention. So the pattern we're seeing right now is we're getting money in on the same schedule that we did last convention, but at a significant bump, accounting for the fact that there has been inflation and accounting for the fact also that it's going to be a larger convention, so we can get more in sponsorships. So I don't think there's anything to be concerned about, and I think there's very much to be optimistic about because people are coming in quick. They're coming in at more, with larger sponsorships than they had in the past, which is good for us. So, thank you.
Any other questions? That concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I'm going to call upon Rachel Hooper to present the report of the General Counsel. For the report of the General Counsel, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session. Is there a motion by Bill Fairbrother, second by Dale Inman? Is there any objection to going into special session for the General Counsel report? Hearing none, we will now go into general executive session. Dr. Spires, can we escort everyone out who is not allowed to be in executive session?